The second game we have on this episode is the expansion to Role Player called Monsters and Minions.
Designed by Keith Matejka. It's the artist is, I keep forgetting, I didn't write down artist, so it's brain farting on me. But the artists are John Ariosa, Luis Francisco, and Lucas Ribeiro, and it's published by Thunderworks Games.
So I'm not going to go into all the how to play Role Player. I'll just kind of tell you what the expansion adds. I'm assuming if you listen to this, you probably played the Role Player game. If not, basically you have a board that you're trying to put. It's like a 3x6 grid that you're trying to put dice in and match values that you get a card for at the beginning of the game. It says you got to have this stat be this number or higher. This stat has to be exactly this one. This one has to be like this one or between this range. And you get points at the end of the game for doing so. It's a drafting game, so dice get pulled out of a bag. They're different colors. They get rolled. They put on these little cards. The players will draft those. You also get the card that they're on, so it's like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, depending on how many players you're playing. And that's going to be your turn order in the market phase to buy cards. Those cards give you powers, etc., etc. The expansion adds a couple of cool things to it. One, it adds the minions. The minions they're a deck that happens in the market phase that kind of sits off to the side with the top card face up. And they'll have like a little thing on them that says, what is it, like +1 combat die for each die that you have in your dexterity stat. So when you go fight a minion, instead of buying a market card, you'll get one orange. It's just a 6-sided die, but they're smaller than the rest of them. So they don't actually go in the bag. They're kind of set off to the side. You'll get 1 plus like whatever the minion has as like a bonus, like +1 for each dex. You can have 3 up to 3 in your deck. So maybe you have a maximum of 4 dice. You simply just roll, and the minion has a little chart that says if you roll between these numbers, you get this reward or penalty, etc. And typically, if you kill it, you might get like a bonus point for the end game when you're fighting the monster. They're called monsters. I want to call them boss, like a boss, because that's kind of what they are, but whatever. Right. The difference here is a monster is the thing you fight at the end. I'm going to call it a boss. And the minions are the things you fight during the game in the market phase. So anyway, it might give you, I can't remember what they're called, honor tokens or something. I think they're called honor tokens.
Is where you look at the location and all that?
Just like the +1 at the end.
Yeah.
You'll get some of those. You'll get experience cubes. There's a little player reference that you can spend those experience on to like re-roll dice and buy different things with them. Eric's right. If you do really well on the minions, usually you'll get a trophy. The trophy will give you one of 3 symbols, or like location, objective, and action or attack. Anyway, at the beginning of the game, you actually choose one of those boss monsters, and you have 3 different decks that they have, like location, obstacle, I think it is actually.
Yeah, I remember it was a LOA.
Yeah, it's location, obstacle, and attack. And those are like how you get bonus dice against the boss monster at the end of the game. Mm-hmm. But you don't get to see those. They're face down. There's multiples of each for each of the monsters, so you're kind of shuffling those at the beginning and just choosing one at random. So as you kill these minions, you'll get like trophies, and you get to actually look at those, but in that specific order. So the first minion you kill, you get a trophy, you get the L token, and that will allow you to look at the location at any point. Mm-hmm. And it might say something like you get combat dice, or you get 1 combat die for...
I think it's always +2 dice, +3 dice, +4, or +1, +2, +3.
I think it's 1, 2, and 3.
1, 2, and 3.
It might change, but for the most part, it's probably 1, 2, and 3. Mm-hmm. So the first card is like the weakest, but the last card is the strongest, but you have to kill 3 guys to be able to get to see that one.
Right.
Anyway, it'll be stuff like whoever has the highest amount of trophies at the end of the game gets this bonus, and the second one might be like whoever has like the most trait cards in the game, etc. But you want to try to see that early on in the game so you know what you need to do to build towards getting that. You can't actually get those bonus dice unless you have the token to see it. So for instance, if all 3 of us were playing and you 2 had the location tokens and I did not, and it said whoever had the most trait cards, but I have the most trait cards, I don't get it because I don't qualify because I couldn't see what it was anyway. I don't just get it out of luck. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so You got the minions that you get to kill during the market phase. They came with those combat dice. You get the monster and all their different 3 different card decks they come with. And then you have bonus dice, which are cool. These are like clear see-through dice that you add to the bag. And their values 3 through 8 rather than 1 through 6. So they can get a little higher, but they're not a color. They're colorless. So when you are, building out your character, and you need that background where it tells you like you need a red in the second spot of your dexterity, if you put a bonus die there, it's nothing unless, you had one that was different.
Right. Yeah. I had a character that was like your boost dice. I think they call it is whatever color you want.
Yeah. And other than that, they've added pretty much double the amount of stuff for everything else, like your background cards, your class cards, your alignment, and your all the market decks. I mean, it just doubled everything in the game. So it didn't add like that much more to the game, but it did double everything alongside adding more stuff. So, Matt, let's start with you. What'd you think?
I enjoyed it. I really, really liked the minions. That was a lot of fun. Sometimes maybe there's nothing in the market you want, and you got the right die for the minion. Go try and fight it. There is an option where I think you can pay 3 gold and flip the
3
minion.
gold, yeah.
And if it doesn't suit the attribute that it's looking for to give you the proper amount of dice to fight that minion, you can do that. So yeah, the minions was a lot of fun. I really had a lot of fun with that part of it. Trying to build up to the boss, I didn't do real good with that. I guess it's neat, but I don't know. What you get 1, 2, and 3 dice. I guess you really want to try and get that third one to get the 3 dice, because that's pretty powerful at the end of it.
Right.
I did forget to mention the boss has something like a special power as well. The one we played against, at the end, after you roll all your combat dice, he flips your 5s down to a 2.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they do have like a little power or whatever, but
Right.
Go ahead.
And then whenever you explain that the boss monsters actually is dictated by the colors that the players that's I guess in the party or whatever.
Right, you can't bring a boss of a color that you're playing. So if you have like the white, blue, and the green player, which is like the cleric and then the wizard or whatever, you can't bring that boss. That way his cards are like dedicated to stuff that they're not good at.
Right. So that was good game design, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I like the fact that they did that, so it didn't luck a certain color player end up being like, well, I'm already doing all this stuff, so it works out for me, grats. So I mean, it was minor things like that. The boost dice, I don't think I ever got one, but I mean,
really?
it's cool.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's neat that they're there. Sometimes, especially if you have characters that have a -2 to something, you might get lucky and get that die and try and get a little extra points out of it. But yeah, for the most part, I like this. The experience dice was neat, or the experience cubes. You get your experience from killing the minions, and you could do the kind of different things with it, like re-rolling and things of that nature. So
I kind of thought the experience, the values that you needed to spend might have been a little too high. Like, because one of them is like spend 3 to add a die, but then it's like spend 1 to re-roll 1.
Mm-hmm.
yes,
I mean,
So-
I don't think. Did you ever add dice?
no, I just
No.
used it for re-rolls.
Right.
Unless you're going
I
after a
just
minion.
spent 5. There's 5 to do any of your attribute, the actions.
Yeah, like your attribute
Oh, right.
action.
Right.
Those are awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably valued correctly, but it's like I would rather re-roll a die than to actually get another die.
For 3, right.
Yeah. I mean, in most cases.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. That was a little weird to me because you didn't really get that much experience from killing the minions. You get like what 2, maybe
2, 3, or
Yeah, 2 or 3. That seemed about.
and it's not like
average.
you're killing 1,000 of those things. I mean,
No. You
What?
might kill like
5?
4 or 5.
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, yeah, I like the minions a lot. That was
Yeah.
really cool. The boss monsters I felt like were cool, but like slightly less
Anticlimactic.
not like anticlimactic, but not as climatic as it could have been.
Not like a boss fight.
Right.
It's
No.
like roll your dice. You might be able to spend some experience to change some of your dice, but that's the battle.
Yeah, that bam, whatever.
Yeah.
So that was kind of bleh. It's not like it's bad though. It just wasn't as cool as I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
The bonus dice, yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
All the extra stuff they added in. I forgot to mention that the minions can hurt you if you roll too low or low. So they'll give you like, but the hurting you just gives you a wound token, and that subtracts 1 to your final combat result of the boss fight at the end.
Right.
Those honor tokens I was telling you about give you +1 to the final boss fight at the end. So that was cool. Either way, they still didn't fix charisma.
No, that's true.
Right.
That's
That
like the
was a
lamest
useless
thing
one.
ever. Yeah. That's the dump stat.
Yeah.
Well, actually, going back on that, then it doesn't really make sense because I think you have to use 2 experience to get rid of a wound. But if it's only going to cost you 1, then maybe it's not worth it.
That's what I'm saying. Like the values are kind of. I thought they were a little bit too much for how you spend the experience, but
Right. Considering that you can use 1 to re-roll a dice.
yeah. Now we've only played it once, so don't go crazy.
Yeah.
with telling us otherwise. But we'll play it more. I mean, obviously this game made it in my top 10 on the Dice Tower, so. This is just the first time we've played the expansion.
Yeah. For me, it was a little bit double-edged as well because I kind of like the minions and stuff, but I thought maybe if they made a, hey, anybody want to fight a minion? And then we go to the market or vice versa. But since you're doing it into the market phase, it kind of diminishes the market phase for me because sometimes I didn't care if I went last this round because, hey, I'm whatever the minion is, I'm going to go fight one. So, that kind of lost it for me on the market phase because in the base game, you typically want to go first because you see all the stuff out. And you're like, oh, I really want this. So I'm going to have to push for going first and using a lower dice.
Right. And what's interesting is if you buy stuff and run out of money and you start fighting a minion, then you never get to discard cards to get extra money.
Some of the minions gave you money too.
Oh, that's true, but not all of them. So
Yeah.
I guess at that point, don't fight a minion and discard a card. I mean, you only have to really fight 3 minions technically and win in order to see all those bonus cards at the end. So I guess you don't have to dedicate. I guess the thing is you don't have to constantly keep fighting the minions, but you do have to kill at least 3, probably 4, depending on because you're not always going to just blast it out of the park, but
Yeah.
you could. So I don't know. Maybe it's neat.
It felt like the vast majority of the time you're going to probably defeat the minion unless you go in there, you don't, your first one, you don't have any experience, you can't re-roll dice.
I don't know about that because how many rounds are there to the game? There's like you get.
I think
So what? You got 18 dice you're trying to fill up? Is that right? 3
Yeah, but
plus
you
6?
start with like in a.
We start.
Did we play it 4 players? I can't remember.
No, we played 3.
Oh, okay.
But it seemed like we started with like 6 dice, maybe.
I think it was like maybe 7.
Yeah, so you're gonna probably do about 12 rounds.
It's like 10 to 12 rounds. I don't exactly know, but out of those, I had 3 trophies. So I mean,
I probably had like 6 or something.
Yeah,
true.
you had 5 or at least, I think.
But I mean, yeah, you're saying like half your game you were fighting those rather than buying
Right.
stuff. Huh. Well, either way, I think that overall it added enough to the game to not. Whatever. You take out the minions and the monsters. I was just glad this expansion doubled everything else.
Oh yeah, I would say that at least it does increase the replayability because of, like you said, adding so much more to it.
Yeah. It's interesting too because the one complaint that a couple of people had with the base game is that the armor sets catered really just to whoever's in the game. Because if you can't really. You don't get the bonus points, I guess, if you're not that class or whatever, but your class cards might not come out.
Right.
And now there's more market cards.
To dilute it even more,
It-
which I don't see it being a big thing anyway, because the first one, you only get 1 victory point. You get more than 1 victory point off
That's
a lot
true.
of other cards.
It's probably good that they did dilute it, but I think I would be fine just removing all the armor.
Armor
But
sets, yeah.
you can't do that, I think, because some of the monster stuff might have stuff that reference it.
Well,
I'd
I
have to
think
see.
even what equipment was having the most equipment, I think was
Well,
for one of
weapons, I
or
think was
it
one.
weapons? Okay.
So there might be one that says armor. I don't know. I like the scrolls. That was cool.
Yeah. Scrolls were more the one-time effects.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, I think it's nice. I mean, I don't see a reason to need to teach this game without it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I didn't think it like dramatically made the game better.
Right.
It's just cooler stuff or more stuff for a game that I already liked,
Mm-hmm.
kind of deal. So
I don't see it as a necessity, but it was nice.
yeah, if money's not a thing, go ahead and get it. But if you are buying the game and you're kind of like, man, I don't know if I want to spend the rest of the money on this expansion or another game, you could probably get the other game for now. Play role player until you kind of get,
If you want a little bit more.
yeah. Because the weird thing is, it's not one of those expansions that refreshes a game for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you played a game 50 times and you're not really sick of it, but you're like, man, I really want more.
Right.
And you play you get an expansion and it adds all this stuff to it, like Catan, right? You buy Cities and Nights, it's like, this is a different game.
It's a new game, right.
This
is not going to be a new game for you.
Exactly. So I would get it early on before you play role player to death,
Mm-hmm.
but don't expect it to refresh it for you, I don't think.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. Anyway, final thoughts?
That's good.
No, yeah. It was all right. It was pretty good for me.
Yeah, I'm glad it all fit in the box.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's role player. Monsters and Minions.